Well, there we have it. Another week has come and gone. Bunch of things to talk about this week, all kinds of fun stuff. Definitely want to talk about straight summer patterns. That's what we're in. Had a lot of fun with a lot of great clients this week. Caught a lot of fish. I had to zig and zag a little bit at times to find them. That's the nature of the beast. But fish are starting to school up. They're starting to sit where they should. We're starting to see what we would consider these summer patterns. But before we get into this, what's going to work well the next couple days? Let's talk about the next day. You know what's going to work really well tomorrow, especially. We're gonna have a little fun. We're gonna light off some of these fireworks. It's the 4th of July tomorrow. First and foremost, celebrate our Independence Day. Ooh, geez, take a minute to think about what it really means. Maybe say a prayer for those veterans and all those in remembrance of what this great day means to celebrate what they've done, so that we can have some of these privileges, whether it's fireworks, whether it's fishing, whether it's barbecuing with the family, whether it's swimming at the lake, whatever it might be. So take an opportunity just to reflect a little bit at some point, however you do that, and remember what that day really means. So super excited. Tomorrow's July 4th. We're hosting a little shindig at our house. I'm gonna light off a whole bunch of fireworks. I got a pile of them over there. Gonna cook some food and enjoy some time. Probably talk some fishing. That kind of goes without saying. So getting into the meat and potatoes of our fishing report. This last week, like I said, we chased a variety of different lake types. We were on 4 different bodies of water in the last 7 days. Spent a couple days on Minnetonka. Really patterned those fish. They're starting to move into that deeper weed line where I'm putting the boat in probably anywhere from 18 to 22 and casting in. We also caught fish as deep as 23 feet of water. So some of these fish on Tonka and other lakes are really starting to stage deep. So they're starting to set up on that deep coontail. Pay attention to electronics. Pay attention to where you make your cast. Be a little more methodical on how you approach a weed line. I'm looking for more abrupt inside turns, places where these fish are going to hold. I've seen a lot of anglers just work an entire weed line, and you can do that, and you can pick up a fish here or there. If you have a productive weed line, if the weed line's productive, by all means, run that whole thing. But for me, if I'm going 20, 30, 40 yards down a weed line and I don't feel like I'm catching anything, I hightail out of there and I jump to another spot. So I look for more abrupt pieces of structure on a weed line, an inside turn, underwater point, deeper weed clumps that come up higher where it wasn't that way the entire weed line. So pay attention to some of those little details on a weed line and why they're holding fish. Because what will oftentimes happen right now is you can duplicate that presentation or that situation on another weed line. So if you see that a weed line consistent in 14 to 17 feet of water, all of a sudden has a bunch of deep weeds on it that come up really high in 18 feet of water, and they're kind of clumped up the size of this garage, and you pull 5 fish off that, make note of that and pay attention to where those spots are in other weed lines. Mark it on your GPS. You can probably come back there and catch more the next day and continue to find some of those little subtle changes that help you catch more fish. So pay attention. Not all weed lines are created equal. Your lake maps on your GPS unit don't always show some of the best structure. So remember that there's things you're going to find and things you're going to see that you may not anticipate, but that can be the game changer that day. So moving on. A lot of fish are sitting in that sort of situation. We've caught some fish off some big expansive main lake points, back cuts, inside turns of bays, like I said, things that jet out. Find the tip of it, find the deepest weeds, and look at your electronics. I'm running an active target from Lowrance on the front of my boat. Super fun tool to help me find fish. I haven't used it an absolute ton to catch fish, but I can find fish exceptionally well with that active target. I can look around, I can see where these game fish are. I can find the schools of bluegills, the bait fish, and I can see where these game fish are. So those are great tools to have and to consider. If you don't have it, not a big deal. I just started using that technology a couple of years ago. Prior to that, it was the way we used to always find and catch fish, right? Look at your electronics, make casts, cover water, put in effort. Can't replace effort, can't replace the amount of casts you make to try to find these fish at the end of the day. So how we're catching these fish. You saw I put a post up on pick 1 or 2, the try a live crawler or the Ned rig, which was that Ned ringer. I'd say the Tri-Live crawler took the cake a little bit on the quality of fish and the quantity of fish. I will admit I didn't put as much time in with the Ned Ringer. The Ned Ringer was our Cadillac the last week or so, and this will continue to be probably my workhorse the next couple months. I'm just playing with that Tri-Live crawler, something different. It's a slower fall presentation where the Ned is gonna dart down a little quicker. So I was just kind of feathering that Tri-Live crawler with a mighty head against the weed line, letting it kind of just fall down, kind of almost drift down. If you watch that thing in the water, it falls pretty slow, where the Ned head and the Ned Ringer just goes, just kind of darts down, which both have their place in time. Another bait we caught a bunch of fish on, I had clients fishing, was just a ring fry, all-terrain mighty head, and that's a ring fry by Lake Fork. Just a little different profile, something a little different, infused and juiced up a ton with garlic. We caught some fish on that as well. My kids call it the pickle, which I think is pretty entertaining. The pickle, where's the pickle, Dad? You know, so we call it the pickle. Another bait that fishes very similar to that is going to be your Mr. Twister pocket fry. Same kind of profile bait, same type of length. You can fish it in a similar manner. I will spray it down a little bit with some kind of scent if you're trying to match what that ring fry does with all that garlic and that kind of stuff. So that was a very productive bait. We use the watermelon, chartreuse watermelon, I'll show one of these to you, Comida a lot. You can see that side, chartreuse, this side, watermelon. So it works pretty good. We were actually taking just a piece of this off, fishing about that much of it, throwing it on a mighty head, and pitching that around like a modified jigworm Ned rig. Caught a lot of fish doing that. This is a real cool kind of all-purpose color. A lot of anglers shy away, probably can't see it with this shirt on. A lot of anglers shy away from those brighter colors. I tell you what, you can fish them effectively. If I fish this, I might throw on a green pumpkin jig head versus my trademark chartreuse jig head and go to town. So that watermelon, that chartreuse watermelon, or watermelon chartreuse, I don't know how they word them. They call it watermelon chartreuse. You get the point. That's been a really dominant bait for us on a lot of bodies of water we fished in the last week to catch a bunch of fish. This week I've been playing around a lot with jigs as well. So I've been pitching and flipping jigs. I lean on that AT jig from All Terrain. It's got a rattle in it. It's got a great hook. It's got a great head. There's a bunch of new colors in the last year. This is bull bluegill. This is sprayed grass. This one is super bug. So there's a lot of cool colors out there. I like that bull gill. I'll show this to you. This is the one I had tied up. Catching a bunch of fish on this. It's just got your, it's got your oranges in it, perchy pattern, a little bit of blue to distinguish what you would call a bull bluegill, maybe a bedding bluegill. I've caught a lot of fish on this jig right here, and I'm tipping it with Mr. Twister pocket craw. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. There's two ways to really rig this. You can take your pocket craw. I pull apart those claws right there, loosen them up, and you can rig it whole, just like it is out of the package, right? So you can loosen up your silicone skirt here, find that hook point, and you can rig it on there as a whole plastic. Fish the entire thing, which is certainly a way I will do it and have done it. Put that whole thing on there. You got a pretty good profiled jig, right? Pretty juicy. Oh, that thing, this looks good. Catch a bunch of fish on this. I'll flip this around, docks, cover, even immediate weed lines, hard bottom points, say 8 to 12 feet of water. A lot of your big bass will school up and house on these hard bottom underwater points. They're not going to be maybe up in 2-3 feet of water, but they'll be in like 6, 8, 10, 12 feet of water where there's some rock and some very good weeds. Another way to fish this, if you want to speed it up just a little bit on how it falls, and you have maybe a little bit of a light biting fish, I'll take this same plastic and I'll take about a 1/2 or 3/4 inch off that pocket craw, and then it just tightens up the entire bait, and then I put it back on just like you would. I'll show you. Thread that all the way up there. Now you'll see just the difference. How, look at that, it just tightens the bait up a little bit. Still gives it that claw, the claws on there, a little different profile. Almost turns into, you could say, a finesse AT jig. There is a finesse jig, but this is just a smaller profile, can dart quicker, dance around a little bit. Depending on how these fish are reacting to the bait, I may shorten it up and fish it this way. So that's the AT jig from All Terrain. You can hear it rattles. Caught a pile of fish on this in the last couple days. I'll probably be flipping a bunch. My elbow's bothering me, so I'm gonna switch and use a bait caster for a while. But that's catching a bunch of fish. So a lot of ways right now to catch fish. I'm still seeing anglers. I'm throwing some moving baits. The crankbait bite's starting to turn on. DT10s, DT16s. Anglers are starting to catch fish in some of these deep diving Rapala crankbaits or whatever the brand you prefer to use, and cover in water that way. Super fun bite. Again, remember, if you're fishing a crank, you're not setting the hook, you're just reeling in. And when the rod loads up, you just turn your body. You don't need to whack them like you're fishing a jig or a jig worm. You just let the crankbait set the hook and you just turn your body into it and go from there. So really excited for this next week. We're going to continue to chase probably similar patterns, target fish on these deeper weed lines, see if we can continue to find schooling fish, put some miles on. I've been putting a lot of miles and gas through that Mercury motor this last week, just chasing down fish, covering water, trying to figure out how this game's being played right now. And I'll tell you what, the bite's getting good. It's a lot of fun, and the fish are starting to thicken up. They're beyond the post spawn, they're in summer patterns, they're putting the feedbags on, and we're gonna have a whole lot of fun here. So welcome July, here we go. Again, have a great July 4th tomorrow. Be safe, have fun with friends and family, and catch a whole bunch of fish this week, and we'll catch you in 7 days. Good luck.